Besides Germany, which has caused misery to millions of people, Japan, which hides behind its hospitality and cultural beauty, has a terrible chapter of history during the Second Sino-Japanese War and World War II. The land of the rising sun with their cruel units committed horrific acts against innocent people. Unit 731, a secret Japanese military unit, conducted horrific biological experiments on thousands of innocent victims. How could a nation known for its honor commit such atrocities? Before Unit 731 was formed, Japan was initially not that interested in the development of biological weapons. Japan had also signed the Geneva Protocol in 1925, which prohibited the use of chemical and bacterial weapons. But everything changed when a young doctor named Ishii Shiro read the contents of the Geneva Convention in 1925. In Ishii Shiro's mind, he concluded that if biological weapons were strictly prohibited in war, then it meant that these weapons were very effective and powerful. In January 1931, Ishii received a promotion to Senior Army Surgeon 3rd Class. According to Ishii's followers, Ishii was fiercely loyal to the emperor and had an enthusiastic personality as well as being energetic and courageous. He had eccentric work habits such as working late into the night in the laboratory. But on the other hand, he was also known for his drinking, womanizing, and embezzlement. However, because Ishii was portrayed as a fierce nationalist, this helped him gain access to people who could provide him with funds. In 1931, Japan began its invasion of Manchuria, and only 1 year later, Manchuria was fully occupied. Alongside the occupation of Manchuria, Ishii's career or rank continued to rise, and in August 1936, Ishii was given formal control of Unit 731 and its research facilities. Ishii and his team initially focused on defensive research, such as the development of vaccines to protect Japanese soldiers from disease. However, Ishii often mentioned in his speeches that offensive research could be conducted overseas. Although it was not explicitly mentioned, Ishii's rhetoric contained a clear implication that some unethical experiments could be conducted outside Japan on citizens of other races who were considered inferior. In 1936, Emperor Hirohito also integrated Ishii's program into the armed forces and created a network of biological weapons research units throughout Asia. Eventually, the headquarters was built in the Pingfang district of Harbin, Manchuria, called Unit 731, or its official name was Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department. The victims of Unit 731's cruel experiments were not only prisoners of war, or adults, but newborn babies were also targeted in the deadly experiments. Japan decided to establish Unit 731 in Manchuria because the occupation not only gave the Japanese the advantage of separating the research station from their island, but also gave access to as many Chinese people as they wanted to use as test subjects. The military police and the Special Services Agency were responsible for finding victims to serve as the unit's test subjects, while a group of doctors were responsible for maintaining the health of the victims and sending them off for experiments. The members of Unit 731 do not hesitate to mutilate the bodies of prisoners to study how humans lose blood, and even when limbs have been removed, the doctors sometimes reattach them to the opposite side of the victim's body. In addition to conducting physical experiments, Unit 731 and its affiliated units were involved in the research, development, and experimental application of epidemic-causing biological weapons in attacks on the Chinese population. In these experiments, they would breed fleas that were infected with the plague and then spread them via low-flying airplanes over Chinese cities. Ishii concluded that fleas were efficient carriers of the plague, so Unit 731 focused on breeding large numbers of fleas. To achieve this goal, Unit 731 has about 4,500 flea incubators, with each capable of producing at least 45 kilograms of fleas per cycle. In addition to raining plagues on China, in 1944, Japan also planned to rain biological weapons on California cities, known as Operation PX, or Operation Cherry Blossoms at Night. Japanese airplanes were planned to spread weapons of bubonic plague, cholera, typhoid, dengue fever, and other pathogens in acts of biological terror against the population. However, the plan was immediately stopped because it was feared that it would become an endless battle between humans and bacteria. After the war ended, a symposium was held in Changde in 2002, which was the site of the plague bombing. The symposium estimated that the number of people killed by the Imperial Japanese Army's germ warfare and other human experiments was around 580,000. When the World War II began to end, all the prisoners inside the compound were killed to hide the evidence, and there are no documented survivors. Unlike some Nazi doctors who conducted experiments on concentration camp prisoners, after the war ended, many members of Unit 731 and its affiliates re-entered society and had very successful careers in their fields. American forces, especially General Douglas MacArthur, decided not to prosecute Unit 731 workers. MacArthur granted immunity to those involved in exchange for the information they collected while conducting the experiments. America believed that the research data was valuable and did not want other countries, particularly the Soviet Union, to obtain data on biological weapons. But on the other hand, the Soviet Union was also doing the same thing, as the US former members of Unit 731 had also passed information about their biological experiments to the Soviet government in exchange for leniency. This can be proven by the Soviet Union building a biological weapons facility in Sverdlovsk using documentation taken from Unit 731 in Manchuria. And as chief of the unit, Eiichi Ishiro was of course also granted immunity from war crimes prosecution by the American occupation authorities, as he had provided the Americans with human experimentation research materials.